Hello everyone and welcome back to Coach Craig Sports. Today is Tuesday, so this is going to be the waiver wire video for week 7. So at this point in time, we are 6 weeks into the season. Hopefully your teams are all doing well, 4-2 or better. But if not, we're going to be talking about some players on waivers this week that you can pick up and hopefully improve your team as well. I'm going to start off by saying, disclaimer, I don't think this is the best waiver wire week in the world. There are some options in here, more like guys that you're going to plug and play for like a week or two than be a season-long type of player. We're going to start off with the quarterback position. We got Matt Ryan. He was on bye in week 6, so nothing to say there. He is rostered in 35% of ESPN leagues. It's 57% of Yahoo leagues. I did throw him on here because the Dolphins' defense has been atrocious this year. I know it's over that 50% threshold, but there's still a decent chance that he's out there. Maybe a couple people dropped him on this bye week. But the last couple games, we've seen Matt Ryan play better. And like I said, this Dolphins defense just isn't very good at this point in time. And last week, they were missing both their corners. So if that's the case again this week, then Matt Ryan and his weapons should have a pretty solid day at the very least. So a streaming quarterback this week, probably 1 to 2% of your fab budget type of guy. Then the next quarterback up we have is Jameis Winston. He was also on bye week 6. He's rostered in 27% of ESPN leagues, 39% of Yahoo leagues. Decent chance that he's out there. Another streaming quarterback option, a guy you really probably only want to spend about 1% of your fab budget on. Goes against Seattle in week 7, which is a favorable matchup for him as well. There's a small chance that Michael Thomas comes back this week. We'll see if it happens or not. I don't expect it to happen this week, though. Maybe Tre'Quan Smith makes his way back. Maybe he has a couple extra weapons on offense, and if that happens, hey, you might have just bought in on the ground floor of Jameis Winston. Or at the very least, you got a decent streaming quarterback this week. Then last but not least at the quarterback position is Tua Tagovailoa, and he is somebody I'm not super high on in general. Yes, if you look at last week, his stats were good for fantasy. He does play against the Atlanta defense this week, which is a very favorable matchup as well. He's probably not going to throw the ball 47 times again. I hope he doesn't. If you watch the game in London last week, he looked like he was playing scared most of the time. McKissic got wide open like 4 or 5 times. Really helped him out there. Jalen Waddle obviously had the 2 touchdowns. But, Tua overall was 33 out of 47, 329 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Had 22 yards rushing, so a little bit of mobility there as well. 25.36 points in week 6. Roster in 27% of ESPN leagues, 18% of Yahoo leagues. And like I mentioned already, goes against the Atlanta defense, which has not been too well in recent years. He is a 1 to 2% of your fab budget guide, streaming option this week, and that's about it. He's really not anybody I'm looking to hold on to long term at least. Then we move over to running back. This is another guy that is above that 50% threshold, but on ESPN, he was under it last night. There has been some like 10% of leagues randomly that are running waivers on Tuesday mornings for whatever reason this season. So that number did increase a little bit. But J.D. McKissic played 61% of snaps this past week, 8 carries, 45 yards, 10 targets, 8 receptions, 65 yards. Ended up with 19 points in PPR leagues in week 6. Rostered in 56% of ESPN leagues, 43% of Yahoo leagues. Coin flip if he's out there. But important to keep in mind that Antonio Gibson has been playing with this shin injury and it's just getting worse and worse and worse. So eventually there's going to be some point this season where he's not going to play. So J.D. McKissic gets a bump up. Jarrett Patterson is another guy to take a look out for as well. If you just want to grab a guy for $1 or $2 on your waivers, he is somebody to take a look at, especially if you have Antonio Gibson. I'd definitely handcuff him with one of these 2 running backs. But with that being said, J.D. McKissic, I'd feel comfortable spending 3 to 5% of my fab budget on him, especially if I'm playing in a PPR scoring format, because he's going to have value more often than not. And the way running backs are going right now, he could be a running back too by the end of the year. Then we move over to New England. We got Rhamondre Stevenson. I apologize for cutting a little bit of his name out there with my picture, but he played 33% of the snaps this past week, 5 carries, 23 yards, 1 touchdown. He had 5 targets, which is pretty exciting for him. We thought Brandon Bolden was going to be pass catching back. Still might be. Don't overreact to 1 game sample size, but Rhamondre Stevenson still somebody that you want to have on your bench. So he had 3 receptions, 39 yards as well. 15.2 fantasy points in week 6. Only rostered in 17% of ESPN leagues, 11% of Yahoo leagues. Goes against the Jets in week 7, so that should be a good matchup as well. Damian Harris just keeps getting hurt and hurt and hurt. So one of these games he's going to miss for sure. Not sure which one it's going to be, but so Rhamondre Stevenson is definitely somebody that you want to have on the end of your bench when that time does end up happening. Then we're going to move over to the Browns running backs. I'm going to do them separately, but kind of talk about them together. So we got Demetric Felton first. Played 20% of snaps this past week. 2 targets, 2 receptions, 14 yards, 3.4 points in week 6. Rostered in 5% of ESPN leagues, 9% of Yahoo leagues. They do play on Thursday Night Football against the Denver Broncos. Kareem Hunt is now on IR. Nick Chubb probably not going to be back for this game. I think somebody even had like a rumor out there that he's already been ruled out, but I don't know if I believe that or not. But it's going to be the two-headed monster of Demetric Felton and D'Ernest Johnson. Yes, I know they signed John Kelly from the practice squad today. Please do not worry about John Kelly at this point in time. So Demetric Felton probably going to be more of the pass catching back. D'Ernest Johnson going to be more of the main running back. Out of these two options, I do prefer D'Ernest Johnson this week and then Demetric Felton once Nick Chubb comes back because he's still going to have a role. So long-term, Demetric Felton. Short-term, D'Ernest Johnson. When we're talking about these two players, Demetric Felton, I probably spend like 5 to 8% of my fab budget on. Maybe a little bit more if I really need a running back, but not super excited about him this week. And then D'Ernest Johnson, I'm just going to flip over to him real quick since we're already kind of talking about him. So he had 20% of snaps as well. 1 carry, 2 yards, 1 target, 1 reception, 7 yards, 1.9 points in week 6. Nothing exciting there. And I know he burned a lot of people last year. Some people spent like 50, 60% of their fab budget on him. Kareem Hunt ended up playing that game where he was expected to be the lead ball carrier. Kareem Hunt's not playing this game. Nick Chubb's probably not playing this game. So D'Ernest Johnson's going to be the guy for at least this week, maybe next week. In that case, going against Denver defense that's been pretty good overall, but they are missing both their starting linebackers now, so there is a chance for volume. There is a chance for success in this matchup as well. Roster in 3% of ESPN leagues, 4% of Yahoo leagues. He's probably a guy I feel comfortable spending like 10 to 12% of my fab budget at this point in time. I don't think you have to go over the top because so many people are like, oh, he didn't pan out last year. Just because it didn't work last year doesn't mean it's not going to work this year, especially given this situation is a little bit different. Then we have DeeJay Dallas, and he is somebody that's probably going a little bit under the radar. Alex Collins is a little bit banged up now as well. Everybody's talking about Rashod Bateman because he is eligible to come back from the IR this week. We do not know if he's going to come back. And this is a dude that's never stayed healthy his entire career. So counting on that just seems like false hope, honestly. So I'm not going to go there. I'm not even going to mention him. Just don't pick up Rashod Penny at this point in time. DeeJay Dallas, I believe, is better than Rashod Penny at this point in time as well, too. So I'm just going to throw that out there. He has a more complete back. Played 34% of snaps this past week. 4 carries, 17 yards. That's solid production there. 5 targets, 5 receptions, 33 yards. That's what's enticing. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. I know Travis Homer's there, and he can do it as well. But for the most part, these past couple weeks, they've been using DeeJay Dallas more than Travis Homer anyways. 10 points in week 6. He's only rostered in 2% of leagues on both ESPN and Yahoo. And that is a typo. They do go against the New Orleans Saints this week. They played Pittsburgh last week. I do apologize for that. It's a tough defense, but they have given up some runs. They have given up some pass catching opportunities to running backs in the past, most notably Saquon Barkley. So the Saints defense, not quite what they've used to been. And in an offense with Geno Smith, he's probably going to dump the ball down to the running back a little bit more often, like we kind of seen last week with these 5 targets and 5 receptions. So DeeJay Dallas definitely in play for me this week. And I don't think he's somebody you have to spend like a ton of fab on this week, probably 2 to 3% of your fab budget, because I don't think anybody else is going to really be on it as much. Unless they're watching this video too. In that case, if somebody in your league's watching this video too, maybe you spend up just a little bit more. Then we move over to the wide receiver position. So we got Marquez Callaway coming off a bye last week. Roster in 43% of ESPN leagues, 35% of Yahoo leagues. Goes against the Seattle Seahawks in week 7. It's a very good matchup for him overall. Kind of mentioned Michael Thomas could be back. Tre'Quan Smith could be back. Does that hurt him? Who knows at this point in time. But, a guy that had 2 touchdowns last time he played. Granted, they were a Hail Mary and a blown coverage, but he's still the number 1 option in terms of wide receivers on this offense so far. And if Michael Thomas comes back, maybe it draws a little bit of coverage away from him as well, or Tre'Quan Smith going deep as well. So definitely somebody you can pick up, plug and play this week if you need to. Might have a little bit of long-term value as well. So probably like a 3 to 5% of your fab budget type of player this week. Then we move over to T.Y. Hilton, and he's not somebody I'm really advocating picking up this week, but we have to talk about him. Played 50% of snaps this week. Hurt his quad, I believe it was, as well. So T.Y. Hilton's already hurt again, which he's pretty much done very, very religiously the last 4 years or so. 4 targets, 4 receptions, 80 yards. It's notable this was against the Texans, and for whatever reason, he's always killing my Texans. But that's a whole other story. We're not going to go down there right now. 12 points in week 6. So a solid fantasy performance there. A guy that you could plug and play in your lineup if he's healthy, if he's out there, and he's going to give you that type of performance. Roster in 30% of ESPN leagues, 39% of Yahoo leagues. Goes against San Francisco this week in week 7. they have not had very good production from that cornerback position, and they've been banged up as well. So could be a good matchup for him if he does end up playing, but if he doesn't end up playing, then he's not going to help your team. So probably like a 1 to 2% of your fab budget type of player. More like a bench stash at this point in time that you could potentially throw into your lineups on bye week, but probably not somebody that's going to help you out this week. Then we got Rashod Bateman. He feels the same way as T.Y. Hilton, bench stash. Probably not going to help you out this week, but could in the future. Played 65% of snaps in this past game. A little bit higher than I thought. I thought they would hard cap him at 60%. This game was a blowout, though, so maybe they gave him a little bit extra run towards the end of the game. Saw 6 targets, caught 4 of them, 29 yards, 6.9 points in week 6. Roster in 21% of ESPN leagues, 27% of Yahoo leagues. Goes against the Bengals in week 7. Still a very good matchup as well. But I'm going to say this once again with Rashod Bateman. We need to see more production before you can trust starting him on any given week. We need to see him play closer to 80% of the snaps. And at this point in time, he's still a rookie. He's still coming out that major injury. Sammy Watkins could be back at some point in time, and then we'll have to reassess the situation and see what it looks like at that point in time too. So probably a guy that's 1 to 3% of your fab budget. If you really, really wanted to pick up Rashod Bateman, you probably should have done it last week, but he's still out there in a decent amount of leagues. So a bench stash, see if he turns into anything else. Then we have Amon-Ra St. Brown for the Detroit Lions, and he's somebody I briefly mentioned last week as well. Tyrell Williams did not come back last week. Dan Campbell says still off in the distance. So apparently his concussion is just terrible, or they just don't care about him coming back. Not sure which one at this point in time. Amon-Ra St. Brown played 78% of snaps primarily out of the slot this past week. 7 targets, 5 receptions, 26 yards. So not a lot of yards, but he ended up with 9.6 points in week 6. Rostered in 18% of ESPN leagues, 23% of Yahoo leagues. Goes against the Rams in week 7. So maybe he sees Jalen Ramsey in coverage because at this point in time, he's the best Lions wide receiver. So maybe not a guy you want to start this week, or he saw 2 straight weeks with 8 targets, and then he had 7 targets this past week. So he's definitely getting some target share. Definitely in play. Probably a bye week filler more than anything. So 1 to 3% of your fab budget as well. Then last but not least, we got to talk about Mr. Explosion from this last week, and it's Donovan Peoples-Jones. Played 78% of snaps this past week. 5 targets, 4 receptions, 101 yards, and 2 touchdowns. One of them was a Hail Mary catch, I believe, at the end of the half, from what I've been told. 26.1 points in week 6. Roster in 2% of leagues on both ESPN and Yahoo. Goes against the Denver Broncos in week 7. So without these running backs, they might have to throw the ball a little bit more. We'll see if Jarvis Landry comes back. We'll see if Odell Beckham Jr. plays in this game because he got hurt as well. So Donovan Peoples-Jones, probably somebody you want to pick up, stash on your bench, see what happens. But not somebody you want to go over the moon painting up for, because we've seen him have decent performances where he got a long touchdown. And then we've seen him play other games where he gets maybe 2 catches. So at this point in time, 2 to 4% of your fab budget, see if he turns into anything else. Then we move over to the tight end position. We got Ricky Seals-Jones. So he's somebody I advocated for last week. Probably should have picked him up then. But if he's still out there in your league, you still need a tight end. Perfectly fine option this week with Logan Thomas at least missing 1 more week. We'll see if he ends up missing more. We really haven't heard much of an update on that one yet. So he played 100% of snaps this last week, 99% of snaps the week before. So very great opportunity being on the field. 6 targets, 4 receptions, 58 yards, and 1 touchdown against his former team in the Kansas City Chiefs. Nice little revenge game there. 15.8 points in week 6, so if you play him in week 6, definitely helped your team out. He is rostered in 30% of both ESPN and Yahoo leagues, so 70% chance that he is out there in your league. Goes against the Green Bay Packers in week 7, and they have not been the best against tight ends. They are not the best in coverage against tight ends at all. We'll see if that changes a little bit more as Jalen Smith gets incorporated in, but I don't expect it changing too much, at least at this point in time. At this point in time, you have to assume he's one of the top pass catching options for the Washington football team. Maybe the number 2 behind Terry McLaurin, maybe a little bit behind J.D. McKissic as well. But at this point in time, Ricky Seals-Jones is a tight end you can feel comfortable starting in fantasy football, and especially if you need a tight end on your bye week or your tight end that you were playing got injured. He's a guy you can spend 3 to 8% of your fab budget on, because 3% if you just need a bye week filler, 8% if you really need a tight end, because at this point in time, he's at least a solid option this week. And then who knows whether Logan Thomas will be back or not next week. Then last but not least, we got the defenses, and there is like no defenses under 50% rostered this week that are worth picking up. So if you really need a defense this week, it's going to be kind of bone dry. Might vary league to league, so maybe your league has a little bit of better option out there. If you have a question about that, feel free to leave them down in the comments. But Also be on the lookout for defenses that get dropped for other players this week, because there could be an option there as well. So the two that I do have very, 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 very available. So the New York Giants, they go against the Carolina Panthers this week. Sam Darnold, his wide receivers, they had issues last week. We've seen Sam Darnold not be quite as effective without Christian McCaffrey in the lineup. Rostered in 3% of ESPN leagues, 2% of Yahoo leagues. Pretty good chance that they're out there. I know their defense has been pretty terrible so far this year. But, they lost their leader in Blake Martinez. But they have decent pieces on this defense. That defensive line's just played really bad, honestly. So hopefully that improves in this game. And it's not like the Carolina's Panthers offensive line is very good either. So there is a chance for this to kind of even out and for the Giants defense not to hurt you, at least in fantasy football. Then second one is Atlanta Falcons. And I know what you're thinking. The Atlanta Falcons defense has been like crap for 3 years. And you're like, Craig, what the heck are you talking about? Well, they are playing against the Dolphins. And I know I recommended Tua. But Tua still makes mistakes. He still makes poor decisions. He still makes bad throws. The interception he threw last week was one of the worst interceptions all season. He also threw into double coverage another time to Jalen Waddle that should have been picked off as well. So there is opportunities for turnovers. The Miami Dolphins offensive line is not very good either. So if they get pressure on Tua, they can get some sacks, they can get some turnovers, and it might pay off in that regard. But 4% rostered on ESPN, 2% on Yahoo. Good chance that they're out there as well. Hopefully you have better options than these two defenses for this week. But if you don't, they are two defenses that you can consider that have a little bit of upside at the very least. But with that being said, this is the waiver wire video for week 7. And hopefully you guys all enjoyed. If there's any other players you have questions about when it comes to waivers this week, be sure to leave them down in the comments below, and I will do my very best to answer them as quickly as possible. But with that being said, if you are new to my channel, please consider subscribing. Definitely would appreciate it. It helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your fantasy football teams through videos like this, the waiver wire video, the starts and sits video. There's so much great content out here. I'm very excited to produce it, and I'm excited for the opportunity to connect with you, the viewer, helping you guys with your questions, working them through your team throughout the week. Also, if you are into NBA or NFL DFS, I have videos about that as well. And then we'll be covering a little bit of NFL news. A lot of that comes down to the injuries, which come out in the starts and sits video that does come out on Saturday. And with that being said, if you are a new or current subscriber who's yet to do so, also hit that notification bell down below. It's going to let you know every single time I post up a new video. My current schedule is hectic, but I am posting up 12 videos a week, daily NBA DFS videos, as well as 5 videos of fantasy football content throughout the week. So definitely a lot of great content coming out there. Tomorrow is Wednesday, so that will be the starts and sits video for the Thursday night football matchup that is between the Denver Broncos and the Cleveland Browns. So that's going to be a good one as well. But with that being said, that's all I have for today's video. Hopefully you all enjoyed. And then last but not least, special little shout out to each and every one of you watching today's video. I truly do appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch this video. It definitely means a lot to me, and I hope each and every one of you has a great rest of your day.